Hey y'all, and welcome back to part two of this K through second grade teaching math PD that I took from my couch. So, kind of summarizing what happened in the last videos, we just talked about a couple different strategies, different activities that you guys can do, but we're going to talk about a little more. So, now, how to run math whole group mini lessons in this how to teach math training is that for day three in the email, from what I gathered out of it, is that we'll uncover ways to teach an effective whole group math lesson in a short amount of time. So let's just dive right in. So how to teach effective math mini lessons in K through second is like once your class has completed the warm up activity, it's time for a whole group math mini lesson. And so you'll pull together the kids on the carpet or tables to teach that math lesson um, to the whole group. So a mini lesson is just a short lesson that teaches a specific math concept in a focused way. And the quick lesson is introduced to the whole group and sets the tone for what you're going to teach after during math small groups. So this is an excellent time to explain or introduce like new concepts prior to learning, and of course, review a concept that you've already taught previously. So the reason why you should teach mini lessons, honestly, is just that you're trying to teach. You're trying to teach in small differentiation like pieces, but what you want to do is like plan and teach one math lesson to all the students. Like frustration can take over a part of this because you don't have enough time, or you felt like you had to come back to it the next day, or it just wasn't enough time, and then it puts you behind. So move away from the long drawn out whole group lessons where the kids lose engagement and like lack the one-on-one. And then of course whole group mini lessons that follow the math workshop guided math structure will work for you. So some four tips that I found for teaching math mini lessons are these, plain and simple. For your whole group math mini lesson to be effective and meaningful, you must remember a few things, like to avoid like being overwhelmed, and just staying focused on the goal of introducing the topic prior to the learning and then reviewing the concept. So keep it short, be specific, differentiate, and then, of course, keep the kids engaged. All of these are really great ways because you're either like creating a short, powerful mini lesson that are 15 to 20 minutes long. You're being very specific by picking one thing to focus on, and just to go deeper during the small groups. And then when you differentiate, you're trying various teaching methods and strategies. And then, of course, keeping them engaged, which just means to get them involved. And then the breakdown of a math mini lesson is like a math mini lesson sets the stage, and it lets you know like where your kids are and like what review or model um, it is that they're going to use. It just also, like I said, lets you know where they are, and it gives you like a clear plan of what you will teach to stay focused on and stick to one key teaching point, expressing yourself clearly and thinking aloud when you're modeling it to students. So stay on track, be aware of time, keep things straight and simple to the point, aim for just 15 to 20 minutes, and look for that small win and go for it. One way to teach an effective math mini lesson is just to take the entire math lesson and teach the first part. The remainder gets taught in a small group. So here are just some ways of ideas that you guys like what to teach and how to include it into a math mini lesson. You can start up with the math warm up, which we've already talked about before in the previous video. If you haven't checked that out, you need to, because that's the first part of this video. So definitely review a previous lesson, build it up into a small lesson, and then move forward quickly. Use this time for your math assessment. Model a skill or strategy. You can do this while the students watch you and then you show the strategy. And then introduce new math vocabulary and a math concept poster, either or, and then facilitate quick student practices on whiteboards or with one type of math manipulative. Have a question or probably ready for them on a chart or something to answer. Ask, respond, reflect on questions during a math lesson, and just notice where the challenges are, and then read math books for kids that focus on math concepts while you teach. Here are some things to remember and not do during a math lesson. Refrain from talking too much or teaching too much. Don't teach more than one concept at a time. Try to avoid reteaching something that the students already understand. Moving too slow is going to get bored, they're going to get bored and they're going to get unmotivated. Also, do not use caution when trying to, use those math manipulatives. Use caution when you're using them because they're better used in a small group, math centers, or independent practice time, and they take too much time to hand out and organize, and that can become a nightmare. And in a short amount of time, you're trying to. So if you want to so if you want to use them, pick one and have a clear plan for staying organized. The benefits of teaching math mini lessons is just that it's previously mentioned, you know, before, as I said, it keeps the kids engaged and interested while focusing on one skill at a time. You gain immediate feedback. You observe where the students are. Math mini lessons are adaptable and they don't require much time. The free resource for this day was just these little simple math mini lesson ideas for kindergarten, first, and second grade. And so these are something that you definitely would want to look forward to, because in the email, you can print a copy of the math mini lesson, keep them organized with the other math templates from the training, and then just highlight some of the ones that you like to try. So teach a mini lesson for your students using one of the ideas in the email, such as modeling a new skill, reviewing a previous lesson, ask a question, and just remember to keep it within the allowed time, stay focused, and then teach one thing only. And just reflect on how it went and then plan how your mini lesson will go. So number 4 email is still working on how to structure the math program, the math small group to support all learners. In day 4, we're just discussing the things related to small groups, why they're important, how to create them, what to do with students. And do you run your math groups currently? Do they run smooth? Just consider, how this looks in your classroom, if you're eager to make any changes. If you don't, think about it, and you can always come back to it. Tips for teaching small math groups. So if there's one thing that we as teachers know for sure, it's that the kids learn at their own pace in their own way. This is especially true in the math classroom. The background knowledge the students come to school with varies, and then of course they're on different progress levels. So we should strive to provide differentiated instruction to teach every child, and that just means that we're asking what does this child need to learn this material better? How can I better connect the concepts of what the child already knows, and then how can I help every child be successful? So as an excellent way to ensure that is just for us to touch in with our students, and then provide crucial differentiated instruction throughout the small guided math groups. And the key word is guided. A teacher leads them. They do not work independently. Guided math small groups allow time and space for teachers to provide direct instruction to kids in a meaningful way. So let's look together at how to effectively use the small groups. So basically, why I teach small guided math groups in small groups is because it's just an effective way for many reasons, like teacher connection to the students, easier ways to differentiate the learning, more engagement by the students, more effective and meaningful assessments, and then a place for students to ask questions, and extends the math mini lesson. So when do you teach the math small groups? So you spend the bulk of your scheduled math block, 30 to 60 minutes, in small groups, and you start with the whole group mini lesson, and then you handle the nitty gritty of the differentiated teaching into the small groups. And so you teach in small groups while the rest of the class is working independently or at math centers, and you use the math centers to practice what they already know. Your small group time is used for different instruction. So when you're creating small groups, you must be intentional on how you group your students. And then there's definitely 2 things to think about: heterogeneous and homogeneous. And that just means that heterogeneous means that you will include students across all skill levels in each group to help them balance and challenge them. But also homogeneous, it just means that you're going to keep similar skill levels together to provide appropriate instruction that will meet the students where they are. And if you ask what type of grouping is best, I just recommend basing groups on ability, and that's to ensure that you structure your small group lessons to target what the group needs, support wise, and where they are ability wise. So how many groups? I just recommend like 3 or 4, but you definitely could have more, but just keep in mind that the less is better for your small group, and with each additional group. How many students should be in a group? The number of students just depends on the number of your students. I recommend no more than 6 in a group at a time. It's my preference, but with more, you run out of space and time effectively, and smaller groups allow you to focus on each child. What do you do in small groups? Some things that you guys do in small groups are, just going to guide you along that math lesson with the elements of like discussion, review, direct instruction, hands-on activities and games, and then assessments. So you're just spending time conversing about a math concept, assessing whether the student has grasped the concept of the material or not. Teaching a math concept, keeping in mind their skills, and then of course using hands-on things like hands-on activities, hands-on games, playing games where students can gain more important skills, and then of course checking for understanding. So the free resource with this is the guided math small group packet, and I think that this is really great because you can use this in different ways. So there is a variety to suit your needs organized by the days of the week, group, and standard. Whether you have 3 to 6 groups, there's a template for you. The yellow one is like kind of based off of like what groups you're working with throughout the week. The pink one is simply just going to, do the same thing as the blue one. It's just you can put them on different colored paper as mentioned before. So in this one, it just wanted me to take the action of reading the email and reflecting on my small group time. And then, of course, like deciding on the type of groups that I would like to have, the number of groups and the number of students in each group, and then the number of small group planning templates, print a copy and add them to your other math templates, and to perform a pre-assessment on to use your current data to decide which students go in which group, and then record this on your planning templates. You can plan a simple differentiated lesson for each small group and then give them a go, and then reflect on how they go, and then always make any adjustments as needed, and then plan your next small group. So day 3 was to create your free number of the day poster. And so the number of the day poster is just an effective strategy to help students learn and practice their number concepts. It works just like a number talk. You pick a number for that day, you investigate all the ways that the number can be representative and decompose. And so the number of the day is should be in the front of the classroom. The students should grab their mini whiteboards or markers, and then take time discussing, drawing, and dissecting that number in many different ways, and then spend time on each section and allow the students to understand on their whiteboards. So to give you a glimpse of what it can look like, you can check out this poster here. And so this one talks about number words, tallies, addition and subtraction, and much more. The number of the day is not a new strategy, nor is it like my original idea, but I think that it's one that comes with a lot of success. And so you can choose the concepts that you want your students to learn, and organize your poster on those things. So this is just a great way that organizing thoughts and ideas come into play. And so the great thing about this free poster is that you can pick and choose what works for you and what will work for the needs of your students, and then put the poster together. So in this, with the poster, I think that you'll engage students and they will enjoy learning with the number strategy. Email number 5 was using math centers effectively and how to teach that math still. But so far we've talked about like planning effective math lessons, using math warm-ups, and then how to run whole group mini lessons, and using small groups to differentiate your instruction. We're going to explore math centers today and figure out how they run effectively, and then why they're a cool tool. And we are also going to just jump right into it. Some tips for making math centers meaningful is to plan, build independence, teach students expectations, practice not teaching, give variety, and be organized. So you want to think about like how you want your math centers to be ran, what activities you want to use, what skills you want to cover, and how often you want center time. You want to be able to set up the center so that they can be completely independent without the help of a teacher. You want to be clear on what they should do and what it would look like. And then you also want to Um, Build centers that are for practicing what you've covered in class, and then offer a variety of activities to keep a high interest. And then the more organized that you make these centers, the easier it is to set up and clean up will be. I would highly suggest using containers. And then how to plan and organize your math centers is just simple. You're going to schedule and just decide how often, how long you will run the math centers and if they should be done daily. Have a rotation board, whether you want to decide how groups rotate throughout the math centers, create a rotation board somewhere in the classroom and teach kids how to reference the setup like that. Or you can also select activities that are exciting and high quality and reinforce important math concepts. So engaging activities. For groups, you just want to decide how you would divide your class for math centers. You may choose to group your students according to level to match your small groups, and you may choose flexible grouping where mixed group of students work together. And then have the supplies and math manipulatives ready at each center ahead of time. So when managing math centers, it doesn't have to be complicated. It can easily be a quick and easy setup consistently, especially for you to run math centers efficiently year round with no issues. So the tips for that is just simply like have expectations, consistency, timers, extra tasks, and to stay organized. Make sure that you are very clear with your students about your expectations for the math center. Try to keep routines the same to help students like know what to do. Use timers to help students manage their time in math centers, and when the time is up, signal them to change centers. Make sure that you have additional tasks to keep those students engaged until it's time to rotate the centers, and then take time before and after each center to make sure that all supplies are ready. When choosing quality math center activities, just remember these tips because the quality of your math center is important and you want to make the activities be relevant, challenging, and engaging. But also, you want to make sure that they're not too difficult, that they are self explanatory, and that they allow for varying levels. And then, of course, to be self checked. You don't want to get up and check what the students are doing at the math center. Students should know what they're supposed to be doing and they should have the activity completed correctly. As you complete or contemplate setting up math centers in your classroom, there is so much to consider. But when planned and managed efficiently, the math centers are an excellent tool and component of your math program. So this will free up your time to work with small groups and things like that. Math centers are a fantastic way to engage your students and help them learn the essential skills. So once again, as before, you just want to plan how you want your math centers to run depending on the structure of your classroom, how many students in that block and things like that. The quality centers about, using the tips above, print and use those ahead of time. Organize your math center area, include the material your students will need for independence, and then practice what center time will look like when your students are around. And just set expectations at the very beginning, have fun, and remember, you don't need to switch up your math centers each day. Switch when students are ready and have had enough practice. With this comes a free resource of 10 math centers. So some other resources that you guys can use for math is the 10 Math Center. And these just come with little cue cards where a student could use cubes to measure a pencil or use cubes to measure a marker, things like that. It's just a sample for centers. You guys probably can go find that over on mindfulmathcurriculum.com. So in the last training so far, we have uncovered how to run math centers effectively. And although math centers can be complicated to set up and manage, the suggestions will help you with that. But what do you want students to do when they're not in small groups? That's something you need to think about. Kids can participate in various valuable activities independently that will help them to build independent math skills. So for day 6 of training, we're just going to discuss the independent activities that you guys can incorporate into your math block. So when practicing math independently, why do we need to do that? Kids need to be able to experience math in various ways and learn skills to complete those math tasks independently. Do you ever wonder if your students grasp the math concept that you taught, or that you're teaching? Do you pour a ton of work into your lesson plans but wonder if the kids even get it? This is why independent work is vital, and not only for building strong math skills, but it also allows us to monitor each student's math mastery of the concepts. So just begin to make your classroom conducive to independence by doing the following things, such as like allowing them the space to make mistakes and learn from them. Don't shame or embarrass them when they don't quickly catch on. Provide opportunities throughout the day that allow a child to practice math skills on their own. Other feedback um, for yourself, and then offer feedback for them and further instruction if needed. Provide differentiated practice opportunities based on the child's level of mastery. Activities and strategies for math practice could be one great thing that I like to do is math journals. So the child is asked a question and they must show how to solve it, drawing pictures or demonstrating, like recording the steps that it takes to get the answer. So you can use journaling for all types of skills. Journals are easy to incorporate into a daily routine. Each day, students know that they have to get out their journals and answer the question of the day. Make sure you have taught the material previously, and then just independently practice should follow the teaching of that skill. And also, journals can provide an opportunity for feedback, and you can also review the journal entry and leave comments. Number two is math centers. The math centers that you put into them can provide hands-on interaction with math concepts. It can provide meaningful practice of the math concepts that are addressed in group instruction. And then centers are most effective when they're well organized. It teaches kids how to move from one center to the other, and then of course what is expected. So the beginning of the year, like show some training on how to move, through over time in the center time, and then just like read more on implementing math centers in the previous few minutes ago. It's just like how to use math centers effectively in the primary classroom. Centers should be fairly simple, straightforward, and students should be clear on the expectations for each one. When done correctly, centers can provide the much needed independent math practice that you're looking for. Number three, manipulatives are going to be like a more hands-on experience with math concepts. They're going to help understand and make the understanding deeper. So this can be accomplished with math manipulatives that the students pick up, arrange, and explore. It also gives kids a way to practice math on their own and gives each student like ways to learn. So you can give each student a box of manipulatives or have them use them for the whole class. Include basic items for exploration to demonstrate what they know. These items facilitate independent practice when paired with a math warm-up activity. For example, a student could have a task that asks them to solve equations using manipulatives. And then number four is just independent worksheets. Independent worksheets could be a little bit of anything. Although you want to avoid only using worksheets, they provide an excellent opportunity for practice. Engaging appropriate worksheets can be great for reinforcing a skill or providing assessment. And then the key is to have quality, differentiated choices that challenge and support a student's learning. So whether you're teaching money, time, geometry, or another math concept, the course that is provided, that I took is a great way, and they provide quality math worksheets. And another great tool for independent practice is Math Mats, which is just something that you guys can do on a daily. Independent math practice is definitely an important part of your math curriculum. It uses, definitely use them during your math or small groups or like different times at the math block. But giving kids space to work independently allows them to deepen their understanding, strengthen their skills, and then, of course, build confidence within their abilities. So the next action that you should take is just to select an independent math activity to try, introduce the activity and try it out as a small, like a whole group, and then, of course, review how to complete a task during small groups if needed, and then have students complete the activity independently. Reflect on how it went and use it in your work to inform like your next steps, and then just switch the activity as needed. The free resource for this was the 40 math journal prompts for K through second. And so this is something that they can work on independently. It also serves as a great warm-up activity, or you can do something in small groups with that piece. And then The day 4 hands-on math activity to teach numbers was a really great email that I was looking at and reading into. So she shared like a bunch of different treasure trove of ideas to make math fun and understandable for little learners. You can use creative and tactile ways to teach math and make math, so that kids will absolutely love it. So by making math cards where they have to build that number, or putting a number puzzle together, or say and build it, um, and then of course like 10 frame numbers, but counting and adding that type of thing, like building that many number of bears. It's just a great fun hands-on math activity to teach numbers. So the treasure trove of ideas for making math fun and understandable for little learners is to emphasize the importance of starting with the basics, using math manipulatives, and engaging them in a visual manner. So, some ways that we can do this is to count, matching numbers with quantities, the number of the day, ordering numbers, place value activities, reading and writing numbers in words, and then, of course, counting on and back, estimating and comparing numbers. So, a lot of these things, like counting out loud, using number charts, practicing with small objects, using objects such as dominoes, number chains, dice, dominoes, counting chips, and then things like number lines and anchor charts, and um, like making Lego stacks with numbers or mazes, to show the number sequences, grouping items into 10 or twos or fives, and then counting, as well as building numbers with Play Doh, tracing, and catchy number poems. Foundational for understanding addition and subtraction, game counting, and then things like filling counters with objects for the kids to estimate the number, and then, playing like guessing games, using charts, number lines, and physical activities to understand the numerical comparisons. So each activity aims to build a stronger number sense in our young learners, making math a joy rather than a chore.